Here is a children's story, but I think it's true children's story because it even says the name of the town where it was. The story is like this. It was some town, I think it was in Poland or somewhere, and there was the Jewish section of that town, that particular town, which was basically one street, and they didn't let the Jews move anywhere else, so they had to like build one house on top of the other, and one story on top of the other. But the Jewish community was, they were the happy and friendly, but the policeman that was in charge of keeping order in this town, and particularly on this street, was a very big anti-Semite, which is nothing unusual for the non-Jews in general, especially back then, and in Poland especially. In any case, this policeman, the chief of police, he heard that there's this holiday called Purim, and that holiday the Jewish people are happy, and that's the last thing he wanted, was for the Jews to be happy. I mean, as long as the Jews paid their dues, they paid their fat taxes and everything like that. So we had to leave them alone, but that they should be happy and demonstrate happiness on the soil of Poland, on his soil, no way. So he asked around, and he found out the one thing that makes the Jews really happy is that they bring food one to the other. It says Mishloach manot ish l're'ehu. You're supposed to, on Purim. By the way, I mean, maybe we should go over the laws of Purim a little bit. But on Purim, you're supposed to give Mishloach manot ish l're'ehu. Every person is supposed to give, let's say, two things to a friend. To a friend, even a person you don't know. It says a man is supposed to give to a man and a woman to a woman. But you give two things. You can give a bottle of beer and a steak, or a bottle of beer and an apple or something, or a cookie and an apple.
A steak?
Whatever you want. You can. It says in the Gemara, it says that there were two chachamim that they used to exchange meals with each other. They would sit and they'd have a meal, and each one would exchange the meal with the other one. There's different opinions with it. You can give whatever you want to the person. You're supposed to give at least two types of food to one person. And this, it says, Matanas Ish L'Reo, it brings happiness and unity and people togetherness. So he decided that that's what he's going to do. He's going to make it forbidden to walk in the streets with any sort of gifts. And he had his policemen there checking everyone that walked in the streets to see if they had any sort of food or anything like that on Purim. The commandment is to give in the daytime. You're supposed to do it in the daytime. So he had his policemen waiting. So everybody was, they were all really worried. They were miserable. Everybody wanted to give gifts one to the other, but they couldn't do it. They couldn't go on the streets and walking. And so I guess he had also patrolling in the houses, in the hallways. Anyway, the rabbi of the community said, no way. Like Mordechai, I'm not going to bend down to these decrees. So he had his wife cook a big fish and a big bottle of wine, and he put it on a plate, a big plate, and he defiantly walked into the street. Everyone is looking from their windows, seeing, here's the rabbi. Now, the rabbi was a man who was in his 80s, and he was a frail sort of a person. And he was walking on the street, and immediately the police saw what was happening. They called the commander, the chief of police, and the chief of police is this huge guy. And he's standing there in front of the rabbi. He says, what are you doing? What are you doing? And he said, Happy Purim. He just kept walking. So the policeman, of course, stood in his way. And he took the bottle of wine, opened it up, and he drank the whole bottle down. The policeman himself threw the bottle away, took the fish and started eating the fish. It was really good. Started eating the fish. And he was laughing and ha-ha and ha, knocked the rabbi down, took the fish and started eating it. But as he was eating the fish, the wine also had its effect. And he swallowed a bone of the fish, and the bone got stuck in his throat. So he just went a couple to get rid of it, and it didn't work. Every time he would go, it would just go like further down into his throat. And his policeman saw that he was in a little bit distressed, so they hit him on the back, and it just sort of made the thing, wedged it a little bit deeper. It was like that, and a little bit of blood was sort of coming out of his throat. And they called the doctor. The doctor said, you got to take him home. And they took him home. The doctor tried to get it out. Everything the doctor tried to this bone, it just got stuck deeper and deeper. So they didn't know what to do, and they were really, distressed. The chief of police's wife saw what was going on, and she heard what the cause was, and she immediately realized that it was because of this decree on the Jews that her husband had been punished by God for this. I mean, that could have been the reason, but in any case, they tried everything else and it wouldn't work. So maybe maybe it'll work. Who knows? Maybe this would work. So she asked around, and they said it was because of the rabbi. Meanwhile, they had thrown the rabbi into prison, like they promised to do. They said anyone in the streets would be thrown in prison. And she went to the rabbi and said, "Rabbi, you have to save my husband." And the rabbi said, "I have to save your husband. What? How can I save your husband? I'm not. What am I?" He says, "There's a bone stuck in his throat." The rabbi said, "But I'm not a doctor. What can I do? I can't save you." He said, "Come and help my." He says, "Listen, your husband hates me. He hates all the Jews. He's going to see me. It's just going to make it worse." She said, nothing will make it worse because he can't. It's hard for him to breathe. He's bleeding from his throat. Who knows what's going to be? Please save my husband. Do whatever you can. Just come to him and tell him that you forgive him. I'm sure that he'll change your mind." He says, "What are you talking about? He's changing mind. He hates the Jews. He'll do anything to the Jews. If he sees me, he's going to blame me." He said, "Please listen. I promise you." She's begging to him, "Please, Rabbi." Okay. So a little bit sort of by force, they open the jail, and two big policemen take this rabbi and they take him over. And his wife says, "Listen, I brought somebody that maybe can help you." She says to her husband, "I brought somebody that maybe can help you." And the rabbi comes in, the chief of police opens up his eyes. Was a special doctor, who's going to be? He looks up at us, he sees there's the rabbi standing there. He's going to help me. He's going to help me. He starts to laugh. He's blazing mad, and he's laughing. He's scoffing. He's laughing. He's laughing so hard he falls down on the ground, and his head hits the ground, and a bone comes popping out. Sort of like the story. I tell you the story about that. No, I didn't tell the story about the Rebbe Morash with the Isha. I don't even remember. Anyway, so the bone comes popped out on and suddenly everyone looked in amazement, and they saw that what all the doctors and the professors or whatever and the policemen, all the king's horses and all the king's men, they couldn't do it. They couldn't help it. And this old Jew saved him. And so the chief of police stood up, and his wife said, "See, I told you it wasn't worth your while to hate the Jews. Look what he did." He said, "You got a point." And from then on, the chief of police changed his mind totally about the Jews. He realized that because he, with absolutely no reason, went against the Jews, that he directly punished himself, and that because of of a Jew, the same Jew that he punished, as he got better. And so it was that he realized the Jews did not present any threat to him, and that this hatred for the Jews was totally unfounded, and that the cure that this Jew brought him was also totally unfounded. It just didn't make any sense. But all of a sudden, that's what brought him to be healed. And so it will be with all of our enemies, that they'll come to be our helpers, and to the Jews will be Ora v'simcha v'sasan v'yitokor with Mashiach now. Have a good day. God bless you all, and see you on tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock.